Avi Shlaim talked about all process, no peace. And a lot of people who were supporters of a peace process and a two-state solution along Oslo grounds, Camp David grounds, Taba grounds, now say it can't happen, it won't happen. And they would say that a one-state solution, a secular binational state of Palestinians and Jews living side by side, is the only option. You say, in your book and elsewhere, it's utterly unrealistic, it's nonsense. Others would say it's inevitable.
If we go back to the demography question, I think that if the two-state solution doesn't work, you will see an Israeli unilateral withdrawal from the bulk of the West Bank, precisely because of the demographic issue. Why did Sharon disengage from Gaza and dismantle the settlements that he himself had created? Because of demography.
Do you see Palestinians as a demographic threat to Israel? Do you use that language?
It does not respond to the original plans of Zionism.
What proportion of the Israeli population in an ideal world, in Shlomo Van Emmy's ideal, would be Palestinian?
I mean, it's
an important question. If you're going to talk about demography, how many Palestinians is too many?
I can't say that. I don't know.
If it was 51% Palestinian, would that be a problem for you as a liberal Zionist?
I guess not, but as a whole, the state needs to have a Jewish majority because that was the initial idea. This is the essential ideology.
You're contradicting yourself. You're saying, I guess not to 51%, but the state needs to have a Jewish majority.
You are discussing with me mathematics. I'm talking about the principle.
I'm saying, in a Jewish state, with a quote-unquote demographic threat, or demographic race is the phrase you use in your book, how many Palestinians is too many?
How many Muslims do you want in Britain? You're trying to turn Israel as a special case.
It is a special case.
Okay.
It's the only democracy that defines itself on ethnic grounds.
But there are others that do not define, but do it in practice.
In practice, okay. Yeah. Let me...
For example, the Arab world is... Arab states are not Muslims.
I don't think the Arab states have ever claimed to be Western liberal democracies. Avi Shlaim, every country does it.
Well, we are talking about Israel, not about other countries. And Israel, within its pre-1967 borders, is a democracy, a flawed democracy. But Israel, plus the occupied territories, is most emphatically not a democracy. It's an ethnocracy where one ethnic group dominates over the other.
And very quickly, are you a supporter of a two-state solution? Or do you think a one-state solution is now inevitable, or a unilateral withdrawal to you?
All my life I supported a two-state solution, but now I believe that the two-state solution is dead. It's dead as a dodo. It's dead as the Oxford dodo, which you can see at the entrance to the Pitt Rivers Museum, not very far, not very far from
it's here. It's dead. I think we get it.
And Israeli governments destroyed the two-state solution, systematically destroyed the basis for a viable Palestinian state.
Paul, how many Palestinians is too many in Israel today?
Judaism and Jews are a fundamental part of the nationality, the national outlook of Israel. It's a fundamental part. And if you said in Britain today that you would open your borders to immigration from around the world, you would have riots on your hands.
I ask you a question. Are Palestinians immigrants in their own land?
Not just Palestinians. Israel will limit its immigration of any nationality, of any people around.
Paul, it's a very simple question. Are Palestinians immigrants in their own land?
Non-Israelis, which is fundamentally part of Judaism, are limited in the amount of people that can come into Israel.
This is precisely the face of Zionism. The fact that Israel comes to me and now I'm considered to be an immigrant to that country. This is precisely the ideology. The problem with Israel is that it views me either as a demographic threat or as a security threat. And if you look at Israel today, it already is one state. It's no longer a question of whether it's going to be one state. It is one state. The problem today is it's apartheid. That's what we're living under.